Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Trauma and Friends We Made Along the Way podcast. This podcast is going to focus on a series of events that caused a group of women, who otherwise would have never met each other, into joining a cult. This cult involved scams, makeup, and murder. Each episode, we will have a different guest that will come on and discuss their individual experiences within this organization. We will also be discussing themes of trauma and emotional abuse. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome to the third episode of the Trauma and Friends We Made Along the Way podcast. We want to thank everybody who's been listening. I have not gotten an up-to-date count of how many times we've been downloaded, but we have reached a few different goals with that. The last count, we are almost at 400 views and downloads between YouTube and all of our other platforms. So thanks to everyone. Thank you to everyone who's also reached out with questions, with their own stories. We're finding ways to incorporate those in future episodes. So again, if you have information, feel free to reach out to us via our email or any of our socials. You'll see the link in the description box for our link tree, which has all of that information in it. I also want to wish a happy Canadian Thanksgiving to our co-host Jess, since it is Canadian Thanksgiving today. One of my sisters is in Canada and she reminded me, so I wanted to make sure we did that today. Of course, Jess is here with us, and then our guests today are Katie and Christina. And the title of this episode is The Money Pit. And today we're going to be talking a lot about the financial things that happened in the group, why we spent this money and what's going on. And we're going to start off with them sort of talking about themselves, but we'll get into the money aspects of that today.
We got a long and slow and hard bleed coming, and the pain is epic, and we have two fabulous people here to not only explain, but Christina she is something else, and she had that spreadsheet, and without her, I don't know if we'd bloody well know what all this looked like at the end of the day. Christina, are you all right starting us off here? Because I think we lost Katie. She's got a storm going on. She'll probably hopefully pop a bit. But if Christina's all right, she can take it away and start gutting us.
Awesome. I'm Christina. I came to the group initially. I had to go look it up. It was 2017. I was invited. I'm like a chronically online person. I'm sure many of us can relate. But I had a online friend who actually I've known for a little over 20 years at this point. And she's the one who invited me into the group. I was a part of the Cold Med 300, 500. I forget how many of us there were at that point that you guys talked about last episode. Um, and I came in the middle of the chaos. There was pizza avatars. It was like halfway started into the middle of the house cup, I think. I don't know. It was just utter chaos. But at that point, I was like, this is insane, and I'm in. It did not take me much convincing to realize that you guys were my people as far as a lot of the fandom stuff goes. And ever since then, I think a lot of people have grown to know me just because I'm one of the kind of few minority people in the group, and B, because I don't know when to shut up. So I'm pretty well known at that point. So that's kind of where I am. I don't know. Do you want me to kind of go into more than that at this point?
It's up to you.
Kind of what you're comfortable with. We love to have you, and we loving to hear the stories. So it's great. Well,
Yeah.
as great
So
as the terror was.
exactly. Um, So you mentioned that I have developed a little bit of a spreadsheet. Um, It's one of many spreadsheets that has kind of happened in the midst of all of this chaos. Because as you guys have kind of talked about, there was one sister who had one group, and another sister who had another group, and then there were things that were going on in the main group. And as the chaos kind of developed and we were realizing, hey, wait a second, like there's a lot of stuff unfulfilled, there were spreadsheets kind of everywhere. There were people keeping track on posts in the main group, but it was just kind of based on self-report. Not everybody was posting what they were missing initially. So within the main group and within each side group, but it was when I believe Persephone and a few other people and I, we ended up in a group chat and we're kind of connecting some of the dots. And that's when I decided, because at the time I had some time on my hands to kind of try and gather everything from every post that I could find from the main group and from each side group and try and get a lay of the land to figure out if there was a pattern, to figure out what was owed, how much was owed. And I think that a lot of people, even myself included, did not realize the kind of breadth and scope of how much truly was owed until we started having a singular place to tally everything. Because it's one thing to see a post here and there to see, oh well, I don't have the custom cup I was promised or the makeup brushes I was promised. And it's another thing to see lists of hundreds of people with hundreds of transactions that were never paid. Um, Really, by the time it came down to it, and it did take me, I would argue, a month or two to kind of come to a whole list of everything between all the groups. And including things because not everybody was comfortable posting publicly what they were owed. Some people felt embarrassment at the sheer amount, the dollar amount that they were spending and had not received, or the fact that they had bought anything at all. Some people had bought things or were owed things and they were still hoping to get them, so they didn't want to. There was a feeling at a certain point that if you had kind of angered any of them, that you would never receive anything at all, or that there would be a sort of vindictiveness either from the sisters involved or from, depending on the time in which it was brought up, uh, from other group members. Because a part of everything that was going on was kind of this divide and conquer type thing. There were people who were seeing what was going on and trying to bring up to the group, hey, like there's a lot of stuff that's owed. But then people who were either loyal to one sister or the other, or just to the group, or just didn't want people to bring up that they were owed anything, it did kind of lead to a lot of infighting, a lot of infighting. And some people just didn't want to deal with the drama. So even as far as like getting the spreadsheet and everything together, a lot of it was done just through private messaging. Um, because another concern for people is that they didn't want their information to end up in the wrong hands. And whether that be just the kind of feeling of everything, and I think you guys touched on it last episode, was that eventually there was a feeling of distrust um, and almost kind of paranoia that was being kind of cultivated through everything. Um, so some people didn't want the sisters to know, some people didn't want the other group members to know. So I also got a lot of private messages. I work in government finance, so I was having to assure people, listen, I'm not risking my job for anybody to, end up with information other than to report it. And at the time, there was so much in the air whether or not what people's recourse were, whether it was to be able to sue civilly, to pursue some sort of criminal culpability. To At a certain point, we were at a point where we were trying to get public traction on social media and things like that. But at the end of the day, by the time everything was said and done, and this was just everything I was able to gather after a little over a month, I believe everyone in the group was owed just over $100,000 between each all of the sisters combined, primarily the two. in question that we've been talking about this whole time. Some of that was in loans of people being just straight up asked for money, which we found out later under false pretense, under, oh, my electric bill is getting ready to be cut off and my kids are going to be in the cold. And that same message going out to multiple group members and each one of them paying what was supposedly owed on this bill. Only, if that same message was going out to 6 people and each of those 6 people is giving you $100, you know, that was supposed to be a loan but was never repaid. Between that and the PayPal scams, between that and people just asking for money. It's my birthday, somebody buy me something nice. Those were the things that started to rub me the wrong way, as well. So that's even all outside of straight up purchases owed to people. And really, the purchases owed were primarily from the one triplet E. Um, the other one was in the things that were called the waffles. They were really raffles. We were talking about waffles because Facebook censors the word raffle because it's technically gambling. And in that particular side group, a lot of what was happening really started small and started reasonable. Where people,
Think
they
her
she
internet
was raffling off things like, oh, here's a
issue.
50-50
What I want to
raffle for
stress
these
while we're waiting for
extra
her to come back is
purses
that
that I
this
have.
is just what we can prove
Um,
based on
here
people
is
having receipts for things, based on people's posts, the scam situation. So it could, potentially be double, triple, quadruple that. So, that I want to just stress that the amount that she's talking about could even be more because also there were probably plenty of people who did not report things that were owed.
I am,
You back with us, Christina? I was just kind of
yeah,
filling in while you were
Wi-Fi went out a
reconnecting.
little bit.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all good. Technical difficulties today.
Um,
It's all gritty. But I was just explaining, that there could potentially be even more things owed,
yes, there
money
very
and
well
purchase
could be
wise.
because there were, again, because of the infighting, there were a lot of people who had each other blocked. People who, again, weren't comfortable posting publicly, and people who weren't posting publicly still may have not been comfortable messaging me privately. There is an individual in question who purposely asked not to be involved in everything. However, they did tell me that they are personally owed several $1,000s, like an uncomfortable amount of money. But it was just deeply personal to them to remain out of it. They just wanted to cut ties and move on. And that's kind of the hurt that was cultivated through this whole process. But about the raffles, that's the other
Yeah,
part
I think a
before
lot
I
of
got cut off.
people.
It started small with things like a 50-50 raffle, or hey, I've got these purses on hand in my attic. Hey, I know you guys like Loungefly. Here's a $5 bid to get into these raffles. But they started to get bigger and bigger. So what started off as auctioning or raffling off purses then increased to makeup, then increased to clothes, then increased to designer bags, then increased to iPads, then increased to Disney gift cards, contributions to Disney vacations,
Mhm.
straight up cash offers, as in if it gets to this point, you'll get X amount of dollars. And that for me was kind of an alert, kind of a red flag that turned my ear up even before things started truly not being not fulfilled, that things were kind of headed in a not so great direction. But again, these people started with legitimate businesses and had cultivated what we thought were real friendships with them. Um, and we had been through hard times with them, of them and other group members being with us during shipping delays, during, enter XYZ reason why things are not being given timely. But at a certain point before, things were being made whole until they weren't. And when they weren't, that's when kind of all the dominoes started to fall.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think and I think once one domino started, I think a lot of people started to go, wait a
Yeah,
second. Maybe it's not just me.
yeah.
Maybe I need to
And
talk to
that
somebody
division
else.
is kind of what caused it all. People were frankly scared to talk to each other or bring it up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it
Mhm.
was, you were scared for any number of reasons, be it that it would get back to the leaders and you'd get in trouble or annexed, or you would be embarrassed somehow because you're like, maybe it's just me, maybe other people aren't seeing this, and whatever the reason was. Unfortunately, it boils down to, like what you said, that paranoia, and we all kind of got really stuck for a
Mm-hmm.
bit until there were a lot more flashing lights and we were all kind of shown the reality of things
Well, and I
very
think we
quickly,
we
and that
we
snowballed
also knew
I
very
think
because
it was
we had, as a group, been previously weaponized against people outside of the group who had also reported not receiving orders through their legitimate businesses. So we knew, just based internally on how they would go, hey, these people are like, they're lying on us. You won't get them their stuff. Why don't you go on Instagram and help us out and let them know to be patient? We already knew internally how that worked and how that would be more than likely used against us as well.
yeah.
I think it in one of the many, many side groups, you were publicly shamed in E's side group where she was selling all of the extra things. When
Yep.
people said something bad, she publicly posted, this person, they're going to get everything they owed. They're no longer welcome in this group. They did something wrong. They were the issue. They went out and said, well, I bought this cup, you didn't send it to me. I bought this, you didn't send it to me. She would publicly post about them in her side group, saying that they are the issue. They have been removed. They'll get everything they owe. But then it was, you never get that person's side of the story of, well, how much are they owed? What have they gone through? And then it makes you scared to also say something until you reach your breaking point and you're Facebook messaging E crying in your car because she owes you so much money and you can't get your car fixed. And you kind of realize, yeah, maybe the other person isn't the issue. Maybe you are. And that's why this is all happening. And I think it was finally people starting to realize, yes, she can't publicly shame all of us at the same time. And neither can M. That at some point, push came to shove, and it was, I think it was publicly posting in dumpster fire, this is everything that is happening. Is it happening to you too? And it was the breaking point for everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 100%. It's the, we will have an episode on the mob mentality specifically, but like a lot of it was very shaming, very like scarlet letter, that the moment you got on her bad side, you were not getting any of your product or money back,
You were annexed,
and because the
lost a
moment,
friend.
yeah, yeah. And like the moment I started going to E for my money back, she started either ignoring me or she was getting snippy about stuff. And then, I was one of the lucky ones where I got the scam, like the cash money back. I never got the products, obviously, like that never happened, but I got at least my cash back. But I found out she basically took it from somebody else. So who do I go to, without, and then I look bad because I got
Mhm.
paid back with somebody else's money for product that's not delivered. And then it created such a paranoia in people that, I know, I think I've mentioned, like, I went on a trip with my family after getting the divorce stuff, and people
I
jumped me
remember.
so where I probably blocked like 10 people that day, and I'm like crying in my rental car with like my family in the car with me, and my brother's like, what the hell's going on? And when I'm telling him, he's like, that is literally the most childish thing. But it's like, when you look at the whole, that was going on so long, and then suddenly I just happened to be the focus, when in the groups I was not usually someone who was like
No, that was
rocking the
me.
boat. Most people liked me.
I said,
A
no, that
lot of
was me.
people, huh? What she said? Like, I don't, we're not talking about bags today, Christina. We're not talking about bags versus cornhole. All right, it's not happening.
It's
Putting a
cornhole.
squash on that. No, but there's like this level of, they, even if you were someone that was liked, you were vilified the moment you wanted your stuff. And like Christina said, we had been weaponized against other people who were not in the group, who had purchased from them. Because there, if you go look at some of these tags, there's old videos on YouTube from like way before we had any of our stuff. There's stuff, like this is before TikTok and everything, so it's not really there. But like, I remember specifically watching this girl who's like, I had to message like 20 times to get my stuff from them, and I still never got it. And I remember watching that and thinking, well, that's really weird. And then suddenly we're not getting our stuff, and it's just like, why aren't
Mhm.
we, when we were the loyal ones, when we're the ones who funded things constantly. We again, gave money freely when electric bills were due, and things, because I don't want anyone to go without like that. I get it. So what was the shift there? And I think some of it is, they knew that it was harder to do that to strangers versus the people who had been loyal to you, and they could milk you dry at least for a while before they, because they didn't think we would talk to each other. And then it was a slow process of, ooh, I'm seeing this. And Christina's right, we had that group chat. There's like a good, 10 of us I think in there, something, where we started talking, and it was like, oh, I'm owed this and I'm owed this. Like, I know people who are owed like $2,000 of product and money. $2,000, that's a lot. Like, mine wasn't nearly that high, but it when you're looking at people who have kids and bills, and like, this is before this current economy, but like, that could have helped stuff back then, and it would definitely help things now if it suddenly came back to us. Obviously that's never happening, but it's that constant, who do you trust, to where there are people in the group that I will never talk to again. And like this podcast, I've had to actually talk to some of them because they've emailed me or messaged, and I'm having to, put on the professional face. And that's not to denigrate anyone, but I'm still like gun shy, because I'm like, are they gonna get mad at me? Like, because that's the atmosphere that was created. And they could be a totally fine and normal person, and it just came across that way because we were
Mhm.
so amped up.
Yeah.
'Cause money makes people paranoid. Money makes people turn into a completely different person.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it was unfortunate that the group itself was built almost on financial grounds. And I think that it became easier over time for that to turn into, well, they funded everything so far.
Mm-hmm.
And, despite this Reddit post that we've talked about in the group, even though this person is talking about how they haven't gotten anything yet, you guys are fine. They're a one off. Don't worry about it. You should, help us deal with them, because we can't just do it all. But it's a one off. Don't worry about it. And
Yeah.
then that one off became two, and then three, and then four. And then over $100,000 later, here we
100,000
are.
that we know about.
And it's atrocious.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, I, I,
That's not even
I
Exactly.
am
counting
That's
scared
not counting.
personally
Yeah.
to go
yeah.
back and look at the totals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I ever added, because I'm scared to look back. And I know
Sure.
that I went into some debt supporting it
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And, and it got to the point where at one point E had tried to run the PayPal scam on me. I couldn't financially afford it. It just was not even, I wanted to, because I
Mhm.
was like, oh yeah, of course, but it wasn't financially feasible for me, because I mean, I was living beyond paycheck to paycheck at that point. And like, I was sitting there kind of going like, love to, can't work. And she disappeared. Like, it was as if he'd never asked in the first place, and you were kind of like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I couldn't
Mhm.
give you money. Like, and you felt guilty.
I think she found those of us because I did fall for it, and at this point in my life, I'm embarrassed by it. When I finally explained it to my sister, when everything started to go down, she was like, "You're dumb. Why would you do that? If you had said something to me, I would have told you it was a scam." But I think she had people like me and some other people that were overly trusting of her. That it was, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I hit refund on yours. I meant to refund the person above you. I'm so sorry. It's going to go through. Can you just send it back? Well, of course, because why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I trust you and do that? Of course, I'm going to do that. And then it was my power's going to get shut off. And all I can think of, because, one of Eve's children is similar in age to one of my nieces. And all I could think of was, well, I would never want them not to have power or not have something. So, of course, I'm going to send you money, because how can you not have power with your children in the home? I wouldn't want that happening to one of mine. So I did it. And I think every time she needed something, I got a message. Every time she had something, it was, oh my God, Lily would love this, because my niece loved fucking Baby Yoda. So the Baby Yoda, she would love this. You should totally get it. Because it was knowing enough about me to dangle things and then screw me over. And I think it is that a lot of people in the group made a lot of really close friends. I don't really have that. So I was super susceptible to it and screwed over, because I really did think she was my friend, and I really thought Em was my friend. And both of them screwed me out of thousands of dollars. And it made me feel dumb afterwards, but I felt like I mattered. So every time she asked and said that there was an issue, I was in, because I was stupid. And I thought, she's not going to screw me over. We're friends. She needs stuff for her kids, of course. And it does make you feel good that you are the person that she trusts enough to tell the secret of, these are the issues that are happening in her life. When in reality, you're just dumb and easy to
You're not
manipulate.
dumb. You're not dumb.
Nah, Katie, you're not dumb. That's not
No,
fair, and
no.
that's not anything to do with you. How they treated us is a reflection of them and
Absolutely.
what and
Mhm.
who they are as people.
Yeah.
That's got nothing to do with you. You are a kind person for the fact that you were like, well, yeah, like this, I care about you on a human level. And that was what I think made a lot of us susceptible to this, is because there are a lot of kind and good people there. And
Mhm.
they just happen to get and collect enough of them that they could manipulate and scam
Yep.
and do horrendous things in the name of that kindness.
No.
And that is not on you. That is not on anybody who had this happen to them. And I want that to be driven home for everybody. And I know it sounds harsh right now, and it's coming from a place of love,
No, it's good.
but it's not to do with you. It is 100% to do with them and why
Yeah.
they did it. We'll probably never know. But you being a good and kind person should never have been taken advantage of.
No.
And
And
that is something that still upsets me and angers me to this day, clearly, because there are very good people who, if anybody was having trouble in that group, we jumped and we were like, yep, no, we're there. What do you need? What can we do? We'll be there.
yeah.
Even if it's just a text, even if it's just support, even if it's a phone call. I remember I had a friend on one of the side groups who was scared to walk home alone one night to her place, and I sat on the phone with her, even though I'm here and she was down and I can't even remember what state she was in. But it's that kindness that you have for people that makes you a good person. And unfortunately, to people like this, it also makes us very susceptible. And to people who sit there and go, well, I don't know how you ended up in a cult. Guys, it
But it does not
happens,
happen
believe it
overnight.
or not. And it's the weirdest thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's no, and it didn't start this. Okay, like I have a master's degree in sociology and I work in human behavior. That is my entire 15 years of working. and I still ended up in this group. Okay. So again, there's a reason I wanted to do this podcast, because I think people really think people who end up in cults are stupid or easily manipulated. And I really don't think that is always the case. Maybe in the more severe ones, we're talking like Heaven's Gate. But a lot of those people, even still, we're just
Mhm.
searching for community. And it's so hard, especially in this modern era of social media, and nobody connects anymore, especially after the pandemic, where people got even more chronically online, that making these connections is so hard. And I know, like, so many of us joined because we were looking for people with common interests. That is still kind of hard to find. Women in fandoms I don't even want to get into the Star Wars fandom and the hot mess that is, and how hard it is to be someone AFAB who joins the Star Wars fandom, right? Like, or video games.
All the time.
Christina and I talk about that all the time because we're huge gamers all the time. And it's just, we found a group, and that for many years, because we're talking like a 10-year time span of this group existing approximately. That's a long time. This was not 6 months in, we're giving money. This
Yeah.
is 10 years of knowing these people. And it was only the last like 2 years that this even really started to happen. So that's 8 years of being friends. Like, Christina's
It's
been in my
true.
house. She has literally spent the night in my house. Yeah. Like, she's one of my closest friends. I talk to you every day. I don't think there is hardly a day that goes by that at least we haven't
Mhm.
shared some sort of meme with each other, at like the minimum. I talk to her every day. And it created these friendships of, I've known you for 10 plus years, going on into a second decade of time. I knew E to where I talked to her almost every day. Almost every day, especially towards the end. We were talking all the time, to the point where, again, she helped fund my divorce. So, like, why wouldn't I have trusted her when she said, "Hey, I'm having this issue"? And she also knows I have a social work background and I work with kids. And like, if you tell me a kid is in trouble, what is my first thought going to be? What do we do to fix it? Because that's a child, And so, like, they preyed on our kindness. They preyed on the fact we had built this
Yeah.
relationship. This was not a flash in the pan. And that is how most cults start. Most people don't realize that these cults start and take years. People didn't just go to Jonestown the next day after they met Jim Jones. They knew him for decades as a minister who got more militant, more militant, more militant. Like, he was involved in civil rights stuff. He was involved in all sorts of things. That's why there was a great proportion of people of color who were in his group. He put himself out there to go after the groups of people that didn't have community or were feeling left out, and took that time to establish that relationship. And yes, people fell off along the way as certain things
Mhm.
happened, which is the same that happened with our group. And people who got pushed out, who started to say something, it all follows a very specific pattern. And so, anyone who comes on our show, anyone listening, I want you to just know that no one here is judging you. And if any of our listeners are judging any of us, this podcast is not for you,
Yeah.
because we are trying to tell this story so you don't fall into the same thing. So if you have family members that are falling into stuff, you see the signs. And that way you are protected, because social media is a dangerous place. I often say the internet is the best and the worst thing ever invented.
Yep.
And social media is great for people with disabilities, or people who are very isolated, people who, struggle, people on the autism spectrum, all these different things. It's great to help us socialize and connect. And it has done that. But it also has done great harm to how we communicate and how we ask for help and
And
how
to
we
that and
trust
to that
people,
point, to that point, I
and
will
this
say
group.
too, and it's something that
Mm,
you guys have alluded to in other spots too. Um, you talk about people who are disabled and things like that. Within like a fandom space, within a AFAB fandom space and things like that, there are a significant number of us who are neurodivergent in some way. These are just the things of fixations and things like that that we're drawn to. And that does make us, I don't want to overstate it, but a particularly vulnerable population, uh, just as a baseline. But also, throughout this whole process and how we were sort of targeted, we were targeted. The way in which we were approached were all different. You know, Katie, you were approached, you know, with things
Yeah.
about kids and related to kids. Hey, I know she's not going to, you know, let my kids be out in the cold. If I go to her with this message, with this scam message, I'll be able to get money from her. And I'm sure you were not the only person targeted specifically in that way. You know, if things were social related, I'm sure people like Persephone were targeted and getting those types of messages because she would be more likely to respond. For me, I work in money, which is, and it's a kind of another segue, and it's something to talk about too. We've talked about the PayPal scams, as far as being messaged, hey, I accidentally refunded you, and I'm going to refund you through someone else, that kind of thing. But there was actually another side to the PayPal scam as well, and that is there are a small group of us, I want to say at least six that I know of, that got the other side of the PayPal scam I'll talk about, which is we called ourselves money mules. Um, there was a certain point
Yep.
through reports from the legitimate businesses and also reports through members of the group because they were primarily selling and doing these transactions through PayPal. But when you're not giving people the money back and when you're not fulfilling goods purchases, especially because at a certain point they explicitly told us to stop using goods and services so that they could stop getting those PayPal reports for not fulfilling orders and things like that, is that their accounts started to get locked. So they were not able to do any transactions, accept any payments, issue any refunds.
Yep.
And they started to lean on that. However, what they started doing was messaging, unfortunately, people like me, explaining the financial aspect that they were in and asking, well, I've got all these orders. These 10 people are willing to buy this cup for me, but my PayPal account is locked up. Can I use your PayPal account? And then you can just send it to me through some other means. I so that's how I actually started getting directly involved and kind of alerting to the volume of money that was being processed at a certain point during the kind of peak of everything was because I have screenshots of my own PayPal activity to Triplet E. I probably processed several $1,000s. I want to say like $6,000 or $7,000 in transactions, and they would come in volume. So you would think when she first messages you, oh, I've got these people who want to order these cups. And so I would get 10 payments in of $30 each. No big whoop. But she's messaging me constantly. She wants the money right now. And I don't know if anyone's familiar with transferring money immediately on PayPal. You're charged a fee. So
Yep.
but she would
Mm-hmm.
message me and say, well, can I get it to you? Can you get it to me soon? And then once I'm finished with these orders, tell me how much the fee was and I'll pay the fee back to you. Okay, no big deal. So I send the money. But now I've lost money in the process. Not a big deal when it's just a few sets of $30 orders. But when I'm getting multi-$100 orders, and they're coming in just rapid fire because, again, my spreadsheet only includes people that I was able to confirm either through my direct PayPal transfers and spreadsheets and posts within all of the groups. I was also getting transactions from outside of the groups, from people she was selling things to on Instagram, on various Facebook marketplace groups and posts and things like that. But I would get messaged immediately. I barely got the PayPal notification before she was in my inbox. You got an order. Can you send me the money right away? Can you send me? I really need it. I have to go do XYZ. And it was always so urgent. Um, but at a certain point, the volume got so high, and I realized really what was happening is that I was money laundering. And I was money laundering without knowing it. And it wasn't until I started reaching those higher, the tally started tallying up really high, that that's what gave me pause to say, hold on, this is ringing all types of red alarm bells for me. Because again, I work in finance. And it was then that I kind of pumped the brakes and started messaging other people and saying, hey, are you seeing this? And connected that, again, I thought I was the only person making these transactions. I thought I was being dramatic. I thought, oh gosh, I'm transferring a lot of money. Gosh. And then it wasn't until I found out, oh, I'm doing it too. Oh, you've been doing it? I've been doing it for like 2 years. And it kind of spirals from there. And at a certain point, I lost track of how much in those instant transfer fees I was losing, because again, people were also losing. I personally, thankfully, did not lose more money on top of that, because people were making purchases through these Money Mules accounts. When people were not getting their purchases, they were making chargebacks and reports to those people's PayPal. And with some of those PayPal order resolutions,
Yep.
they were losing money because PayPal was giving them their refund from your balance or from whatever account you had associated with the account. And so a lot of people were losing their own money and their own PayPal accounts because they were technically laundering money through us.
Yep.
Yep.
And some of those people got in trouble with
Correct.
the IRS that
Yeah,
I do know. Yep.
that was going to be my thing of I've sold books and used PayPal, and I always send out my stuff. But I got 1099 PayPal for
Mm-hmm.
selling like $400 worth of books one year. I can't imagine what you would have done when it's money you never got because it wasn't your
Thankfully,
money.
I did not have tax
Yeah.
implications for mine. I don't know how I lucked out that year, but there is somebody who did, and they are owed many $1,000s in tax liability. Many
Yeah.
$1,000s.
Yep. It's a significant. It when she told me the exact amount when I talked to her, this was a while ago. I was just like, I would have
Pretty sure she
thrown
did.
up, just like straight up vomited. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, it was just like, I don't know how I explain this to anybody. I don't even know like what I would do at that point. Like, I feel like I would have to talk to an attorney or something, and or a CPA, so anyone who's a professional. But at that point, like, the government's not going to care that
Yep.
you were scammed. You're still going to have to pay it, like you're still going to have to deal with the consequence of that. And that's the level of trust that they had built with many of us. And it's you don't, because when I went to my brother with this, my brother is an attorney. I said, like the scam thing, he said, listen, most of us don't realize we're committing that kind of a crime until it's
Yes.
too late, because we're not criminals. We don't know that we're participating in
I
embezzlement
got
or
several
money laundering
$1,000s in
when
before I
someone is
realized it, and
asking us
I
these
worked
questions.
with government money every single day. I thought I was helping a friend.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's with the where they would do a chargeback on my purchases, so then I would pay them privately, and then they would pay me back from the business as embezzlement. And when I explained it to my brother, he works in, like, he used to be a prosecutor out in LA, so like when I'm explaining this to him, he's just like, Persephone, that's embezzlement. Like, how would I know? I
Yeah.
don't run like a business that sells things and stuff. Like, I'm an independent contractor, but I don't,
But they
have
would also
these
assure
kinds of
us that to their
aspects to my
lawyers
my
that
company.
don't exist. I'm pretty sure it was okay. Everything's
It
fine.
was
Everything's
okay.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when
Right.
you're in
And
the
I'll
then
midst of
so,
refund an
that,
old makeup order.
yeah, when
yeah.
you're in the midst of that,
It's,
especially to your average citizen, effectively, who doesn't work in that background, you wouldn't know any different. My partner is
no.
a complex fraud investigator, and when you start explaining it to him, he's like, "Huh?" he's like, "What do you mean?"
We didn't know. We
We
just didn't, I didn't think anything of it, because also I didn't have a business at that time. I became an independent contractor later. So like I know a little bit more now, to where now I'm like, ooh,
Yes.
see, it would have been a red flag
Yeah.
today. But
Well, and another
5, 6, 7 years
massive issue
ago.
was that it was multiple countries. Like,
Yeah,
and
that
as I've
too.
learned through him, fraud varies significantly across countries. originally he's from the UK, and fraud out there is a lot more complex than it is in my country, for example. And they're several years ahead of us in fraud, which is scary, but we're not going there. And so he's like, when they have these scams here, a lot of people don't know about it in the first place. And so you wouldn't be able to even know, you wouldn't be able to
Mhm.
Google it and go, is this a scam? Because where your information is pulled from with your searches, it's a lot more relevant to you in your area. And in these cases, you would have no idea, especially also, let's add to the fact that this is several years ago now. And I mean, I really don't know how prevalent a lot of that stuff at the time was, unless it was behind closed doors. So a lot of it wasn't
Yeah.
really public knowledge anyway. Um, so it
Yeah.
makes sense that they were able to run such a scheme.
Well, and then you have the state aspect too, because just like what you mentioned with countries, states have different fraud things. Like California's fraud code is like crazy tight. Like they're light years ahead of. I'm in Kentucky. Don't get me started on how backwards our laws are, to where if I had, like just dealt with Kentucky, it would have been a whole, like, nothing would have happened. I would have had to
Mhm.
have gone on like Judge Judy or something, just to get anything back. But if it had all been in California, but then when you're crossing state lines, you have to go to the federal, but the federal's not going to do certain things when it's also dealing with all these state aspects, because they would have to do this investigation, and sometimes they just won't do that if it's not an amount of money that they deem.
Correct.
It's not like a Bernie Madoff scheme where you're dealing with millions of dollars. So it's like, who do you go to? And when I talked to my brother, we were trying to see if we could get this charged in California, because their fraud is so much stronger. But part of the issue is it's international and across state lines, and that creates a whole mess that not everybody wants to
Because there
touch
are several of
at
us. There are
all.
several of us who
And
did
especially when,
contact our state's attorneys, and someone I made reports to
Mhm.
the FBI federal wire fraud. That somebody else had an interview with the feds about it. But like you said, it's so complex, it's so widespread. It's a lot of nickels and dimes came together to make a large pile of money owed, but it doesn't change the fact that legally and jurisdictionally it's just all over the place. And a lot of people, for better or worse, a lot of jurisdictions, for better or worse, have kind of looked at it and go, well, this is a small claims thing. If she owes you $800, then take her to court.
Yeah.
She's never going to see me in court.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a big part of the
I mean,
issue.
if large hotel chains can't collect off of them, then I don't imagine really any of us can touch it.
Yeah. Yeah. I did have a specific question for Katie. What was the moment you realized you had hit your breaking point with the money, with the things like the schemes? Like, what was your red flag, your line in the sand that you finally said, this is not okay?
So unfortunately, I fell for both M and E. So
Mhm.
I was part of the waffles. So that I think I gave up because I was like, whatever, we're never getting anything out of her. I got one thing, that I won a $300 gift card to their makeup company. But I think that's the only thing I ever got out of like the 9 things I won. Um, my breaking point was, and funnily enough, my time hop showed me that it was 4 years ago on Wednesday was my breaking point, because I had stopped on my way home from work to get a drink from the Mary Lou's that's right by my apartment. And in the amount of time that it had taken me to go in and get my drink, come back out, my car wouldn't turn back on. So I didn't know what I was supposed to do, because what is happening. So I knew that E had promised to send me back the money that from the accidental refund. She had said that she would send it back to me. So I was like, okay, that's fine. And I kept getting the, oh, it's coming in a few days. Oh, it's coming in a few days. So I would, and then you don't want to be like messaging all the time. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a few more days and then I'll message. I'll give it a few more days and I'll message. So that night I was legitimately sitting in my car in the rain waiting for AAA to come get me. sobbing because how am I supposed to pay for my car? But if I get the money from the refund, I can pay to fix this because,
Mhm.
it was the starter. So I'm like, I need this much money. And I kept messaging and she ignored me. And I think that was my breaking point of I have never not responded when you messaged me for something. I've always been there. I've always listened. I have responded in some way. But the second I am in need and asking you to give me what is owed to me, which literally from the PayPal scheme itself, so not even everything that I'd purchased, the PayPal itself was like $100 and something. So not everything that was owed. And I think that was my breaking point. And I think if I look back at my screenshots, I sent a really, really mean message back and was like, this is ridiculous. I have never done anything. I can't believe you would do this when I'm asking for cancel. I want all of my money. Cancel absolutely everything. I want all of my money back. And I think I might have gotten one response back and then never anything again. And that was when I went scorched earth. That I started going through in M's side group and pulling things. I then posted about the PayPal scam in Dumpster Fire, and I went just I was done. That I was like, if you're going to do this to me, everything's going down. I am lighting a match and I am burning everything that you guys owe me, and I will take both of you down with me. So
I love that.
Yeah.
And then when I posted there, M left her side group, but was still in another one. And I posted in that one, like, how dare you think that if you
I
leave one group,
remember
you can
that.
ignore me? This is not happening. You owe all of this stuff. You cannot avoid that. I went off. That I was like, you're not leaving certain groups to think that you can
Surprise!
escape me because we're in so many together. I will just keep bouncing around to the point that they deleted the Fandom of the Month buy sell trade official because I was a mod on it.
Go,
So like,
Katie.
you
Yes.
can't even escape me here, and I'm gonna approve every single message that talks shit. They deleted the group. But I was like, there's no escape. One time, I asked for help one time, and you acted like I was invisible. I'm setting it on fire.
Go, Katie. Yes.
Like, went off.
Yeah, and I think they 100% deserve to be called out in that way because that's what they would do. Is the moment you said, "Hey, where is my thing?" you wouldn't get a response. But they
Hmm.
would totally be online because it tells
Yeah,
you on Messenger and
and
stuff when
you
someone's
see when they
online.
read it. So,
Yeah.
and M, E never did. So I went through. I took screenshots of all of our messages. Every dollar I had sent to either of them, anything that I had won, I took screenshots of everything. So I'm like, I know you guys, you're gonna
And
start
then
dirty deleting because that was a thing that always happened. Was the dirty delete, and I was like, yep, no, we're not dirty deleting anything. I will keep every little aspect because
it
this
wasn't just dirty
is the
deleting
end.
posts at a certain point with M, it was dirty deleting an entire profile. Because I don't know if you remember when she had originally
Yeah,
Yep.
created the group,
yeah,
Yeah.
it
the
was
whole
under a
profile.
fake profile.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then it was, well, I need to make a fake ID because someone reported the Facebook is fake. So I need an ID that has this name on it so that I can keep this Facebook profile. Then it was another Facebook profile with like her son's picture. So it was like
Yeah.
constantly moving things around because people were reporting that she was doing the waffles on her main account, then went to the group. The only good thing is that she got someone else to make the group, so she couldn't dirty delete the group because someone else owned it.
Yeah.
So it's like, you can't
Yeah.
get rid of the evidence because you don't run this group.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she made a PayPal for her infant
Yep.
child
Yep.
to do some of the stuff, like to steal things, which I don't know if any of you know this, but it's actually really common for parents to use their children's social security numbers to steal
Yep.
stuff. Like when I worked for CPS, I had to constantly check all of my kids and cares to make sure no one had started like credit in their name and things like that. It's happened to one of my family members that married into my family. His mother did
Me
that
too.
to him, and like it is a very common thing, unfortunately. And so like when I saw that she did that with her son, that was kind of one of my breaking points where I'm like, what are we doing? Why are you making something in
Hmm.
your, I think
Very
he was
much
like
a
what,
toddler.
2 or something at the
Yeah.
time, 2 or 3,
Yeah.
like he was little.
Yeah.
He was couldn't even use phone right, much
Right.
less start a freaking PayPal account. Okay. And that I remember that being one of my like this. And when I remember her asking about the fake ID, where I'm like, you're asking a bunch of nerdy women where to get a fake
Yeah.
ID.
Or how to make one online that looks real enough. And it was
Right.
like she was doing that, and E was using Facebook Pay on her husband at the time's account,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I paid her husband at the time for a cup, because she was like, oh, it's just Facebook Pay, like mine doesn't work, just send it to him. So I had to
Yeah.
message him and be like, hey, I don't know how to do this, but like I want this stupid baby Yoda cup.
I still love her excuse of the cat knocked over
Oh yeah.
over all the blank cups, and that's why we never got our cups. But okay. Sorry, that's like still one of my favorite stories because it just
Oh no, the best is also I didn't dye my hair. I used purple shampoo and it turned my hair pink.
Oh,
Like, no, you went to a salon, just say you went to a salon and
yeah.
you owe us money and you got your hair done.
yeah.
Like,
Anyone who
purple
knows how hair
shampoo didn't
works,
turn it bubblegum pink. We're not stupid.
But I do think that like
I
stuff like
forgot
that
that.
towards the end was a lot of like it did start to wear a lot of people down because I do remember that. It was like it was one of their birthdays and it's
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
you were just in my inbox last week, saying your lights were getting ready to be turned off, but it's your birthday and you have this brand new dress on that is a designer dress. And you're having this big party at this bar and
Yeah.
okay, that's not very
That's
broke of
not
you.
Or
mapping
what's
here, guys. Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Remember the story about the phone being missing and that's why she
Oh my
couldn't
God,
pay
Joe's
any of
Crab
us or do
Shack.
anything? Yeah. I don't remember the entire story from start to finish, but it involved Joe's Crab Shack
Yes,
to our
that
listeners.
she had left the phone somewhere in like a Walmart or something. Someone had picked it up and dropped it into one of those
Yep.
cash for phones kiosks
Yeah.
Yep.
and gotten the cash for it. So she had to go through all of this stuff to get the phone back out of
Which
the
isn't a
kiosk.
thing.
That's why she couldn't message any of us. That's why she couldn't give anything, because everything would text codes to that phone and she no longer had access. So she couldn't do anything until that was fixed. But no one could get into that kiosk and the phone had already been sent. Like, I don't think mail works that fast. It doesn't
But the lady that
teleport
found
from
it
that
and sold it
kiosk,
into the
but she
kiosk
acted like it had gotten put
was
up there
wearing
and
a
gone.
Joe's Crab Shack.
Was
Yeah.
in a Joe's Crab Shack shirt.
Yeah.
Very important detail.
Yeah. And that was one of the last
Yep.
stories that were like, what?
But
That
wasn't
makes
there
And it
no
became
something?
like a running joke.
Yeah. Oh, it still is.
Yeah,
Like,
Karma
Jesus
wears a
Christ.
Joe's Crab Shack shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like somebody said something too about seeing something active on iPhone or posted from iPhone or something like that from her as well.
Yes.
And we were all like,
So
wait
I
a
think she
second.
posted it in the group.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
like, wait a second. I thought your phone got dropped off by Joe's Crab Shack lady. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, and I also don't think she understands you can still access email or you can send a code to from
Any
any of your,
number
especially if you have an
of
iPhone,
your
if you have an
electronics
iPad.
that you also
Yeah.
have,
Yeah. You
then you
certainly
know.
weren't sending out those
Yeah.
items.
If you have an Apple product and you've got,
Yeah.
yeah.
Or that Apple Watch didn't get.
Listen, I had my stuff stolen in Hawaii and I still had access to my Apple Watch stuff, like that. I don't think, I think it was one of those, the stories got more wild as time went
Hmm.
on with why things weren't happening, to the cat knocking stuff off, to my phone was stolen, to all, and it was something all the time. It wasn't, once in a
It
while
was
one
once a
off, or,
week.
we all have a crazy story. Everybody has them. But yeah,
Yeah.
this was
Yeah.
so much that it's like, no one has this worse of luck.
Yeah.
Like, this is to the point where I'm sorry, like, I have a cat. and I still don't have that many stories. I have a kid. I work in social work and stuff with people with disabilities, and I still don't have as many crazy stories all the time that you do. Like most of my days are pretty average and normal. Why is it always the case when people are coming to you for our money, for our products, that suddenly your phone's stolen, this has happened, or you just flat out ignore us, even though I know you've been online because you've posted somewhere else, or it says, oh, they've checked their
Yeah.
It
Facebook
wasn't
within the
until they
last
were
hour or
threatened with any
whatever.
kind of
Like,
exposure that we
you
would
know,
get a new post or a new message. It would happen that someone would
Yeah.
post publicly, I'm going to report your account, or I'm going to tell your mom, or something, that then we would get a new post that say, okay, hold on, I updated my spreadsheets. Here's the order that everyone will get things in. But then several days later, it was, oh, my cat's at the vet and they have rabies or something. I don't know. But it was anything to keep people from asking about what it really
Yeah.
was. It kind of got to a point where it was like the more ridiculous the story kind of became, people were like, should I even be asking about this? Things just, in order to
yeah,
keep people from asking, the stories by nature did kind of have to start getting wilder and wilder. Because otherwise people were just like, I mean,
Yeah.
so what? Oh, you couldn't pay your bill? Neither could I. Where's my stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. We were
And
all
it
a
was
10-year
always,
cult with over 1,000
yeah.
people, but those crazy stories seemed boiled down to just 2 people, because I sure don't remember a lot of other people having that many bloody crazy stories. And you'd think
Yeah.
over 1,000 people over 10 years, you'd have
Right.
at least 1 or 2.
yeah. Well, and other people sold things in the
At
group that
all.
didn't have nearly this much drama.
Yeah.
Like I bought stuff from plenty of other people in the group. There are still some of my friends that still sell stuff that I still buy things from because they're pretty consistent. They say like, "Oh, hey, I'm running behind on things," or they at least communicate. And they've never had that level of crazy. Like occasionally, like they might have a personal emergency, like a family member who's sick, but they all made sense, like not this weird kiosk
Yeah.
shit that I couldn't follow the story because my brain could not connect A to B here, to where I'm like, how did we get
From here.
Joe's Crab Shack involved? Like, how did we get this kiosk thing? Like, I don't understand 99% of what just happened, to where that's why I can never tell the story, because I can't comprehend the level of stupidity it took to come up with that. To where you could have just said, hey, my phone was stolen. I got to deal with it. Give me a couple of days, and then let it go. Instead, like, the more aspects to a lie you tell, the more stupid it sounds,
Yeah.
and the less you can keep it together, which is why I think it sounds so like all over the place.
And I think that's
It's
the issue. Liars think they need to have like every intricate detail to make their story more believable, but it's just
yeah,
more stuff for you to remember when you get called out on the lie.
Yeah.
Keep it
yeah,
simple, keep it precise. That's what you need to do when you
But
lie.
even then, the
Don't add so
yeah.
simple
many
ones
details.
were like, what the heck? Like,
Like the cat.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or like my personal favorite of, I need your ID because I spent money on a Canadian gambling site and I need the money out.
And whose money do you think they
What?
were gambling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it was M, probably some of
Same.
mine.
I remember getting that message and I was like, wait a second. Wait a second.
I know.
Wait a second.
So we're coming upon sort of the end of our time today, but I want to give each of our guests a time to kind of throw anything else in there. I do want to start with Katie, since Christina started us off. If there's anything else you would like to add or say as we sort of wrap up here.
I don't think I have too much. I think it's just that while this was a nightmare, it was really great in the beginning. Like, I joined originally after finding Flitwicks, not even Phantom of the Month. Flitwicks was my starting point. I wanted cute jewelry for work. So cute work jewelry is what got me down this rabbit hole. But it was really fantastic when it started. The way the house cup was getting to include my niece and stuff with making a dress out of toilet paper rolls, everything was so great until it wasn't. And I think that the one big takeaway I have, and the one thing that I think hurt the most out of everything, was when M said, "Well, you guys aren't my friends. Like, why are you acting like I owe you anything? You're not my friends." That was the part, and it was when everything started, like when everything started coming out and everything started going bad. That one thing I think hurt me the most out of everything. And it's what I said, because I was one of the people that posted like my whole story on TikTok, and it was that was the thing that hurt, that I thought the whole time, well, this is awesome. We're a big group of friends where this is so great. That was the thing that I think hurt me the most out of everything, was someone that I helped with things that I thought I was close to because, I was cool and I was in a stupid side group and then another stupid side group. Being told, you guys aren't my friends, I don't owe you anything. Well, we're not your friends and you don't owe us anything. You do owe me all of this money that you stole from me with your stupid waffles.
Mm-hmm.
That was the worst thing out of everything, was that one phrase from her and being ignored. That it was, you took something beautiful that all of us had and all of us enjoyed, and you broke it, and you broke a lot of us because you got greedy and realized you could make money from us.
Yep.
If you had just kept it cool and kept it friendly, I'm still in the group because it's now not as it was, but the third sister is still in it. It's not what it was, and it was way fun to like come home from work and be like, okay, what are we talking about today? I don't have that anymore. They took that from us, and that's wrong. All because you got greedy. You took something great from people that enjoyed it, and you suck.
All right, Christina, is there anything you would like to
Um,
add before we wrap
I
up?
think we touched on most of it. I think again the biggest takeaway is that, all of the kind of negative things that things kind of devolved into, that's not what it always was. Um, like you said, I've developed some incredibly close friendships from this. I have some crazy memories, good memories, not even just the crazy bad ones now, of things that kind of centered and created from that group. And it sucks that we all kind of got into the situation that was supposed to really at its core be fandom girlies in a safe space without dude bros harassing us and testing our fandom knowledge and things like that, to just kind of have a place to be and be nerdy and develop these relationships. We helped people. We donated to charities. We helped each other personally. When group
Mhm.
members died, people went to their funerals. When group members got married, people went to their weddings, to their baby showers, including the sisters, including their weddings and their baby showers. So these relationships were real. It just got to a point, and at some point, they will have to answer to when that transition happened, of when, if ever, they stopped viewing us in this interpersonal way, or friends or friend adjacent, even, to kind of these expendable things to make money off of. Because really, that's at the end of the day what it devolves down to. You know, case in point, the statement from Sister M about, you guys aren't my friends. Like, what do I owe you? Well, what are we then? What are we then? These 10 years just mean nothing? It took us exposing what you did for you guys just to go, sorry. And that's not okay. You may have broken something that we all kind of loved and cherished, but you didn't fully break us. So many of us still connect, so many of us still talk, and those relationships that we've all developed amongst each other, they may be a little bit more shaky sometimes, but they're still real.
Yeah. And Katie, you're
Queen.
our friend, so I don't know. Like, I don't want you to think that you walked away with nothing here, because I know it. I know it can be hard. Like we lost a lot
Yes.
when this ended. A lot of us did. Like that coming home from work and checking things. I loved that, or like when it was my break, or, when it was like an off day or whatever, just having that camaraderie of, like, Christina touched on the charity stuff. There were so many good things in this group, and the greed really did is really what killed it. The greed is really what killed it. And that breaks my heart, unfortunately. It is what it is. But I want to thank both of you all for being on today. You actually did everything without us having to ask you a lot of questions because you answered most of them. So I thank you all for being super on point and for talking about one of the hardest subjects in this is the money aspect, because it is very embarrassing, and it's hard to admit that we made mistakes, because
Every
all of
single
us
one.
did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So every single one, whether it was money or something else, we all were a part of something that unfortunately turned very negative, that wasn't negative for a long time.
Yeah.
So
Community might have got cut off at the knees, but it's still there. And you know what? We walked away at the end of the day learning more and knowing that we weren't the problem. And I think that that's a really good takeaway. And I want to reiterate to anybody listening, or anybody who's gone through this or anything like that, don't take it to heart, because
No.
it's not on you. This stuff just kind of sometimes happens to the best people because insert crappy reason here. And you know what? It's unfortunate and it sucks, but it's not on you. You are a good person regardless, because you went out of your way to support people when they needed somebody. And you know what? Regardless of the fact that that was severely taken advantage of and severely misused and was done in such a malicious way, just know that you yourself, you're still a good person, and it doesn't make you stupid. It doesn't reflect negatively
And
on
even
you.
if we haven't talked in forever,
Anybody here?
we're family. Connected through trauma bonded forever.
Yeah, trauma bonded.
Yeah. So no, you're amongst family, like it or not.
Yeah. Always in front. There's a reason why we were named this. We were actually named this by a fellow group member, a different Katie. And I thought it was funny because TFP was the initials for the original group, and then it kind of translated over, and like there's a reason why, that unfortunately it was the trauma and friends we made along the way. But I want to thank you both for coming on. I want to thank my co-host Jess as always. And, again, happy Canadian Thanksgiving to anyone listening. We are going to be recording a special episode next week that will air at a later date after this one. And then we will try to get probably another one recorded through the holidays for our listeners. But if you're listening, please, like, share, subscribe, definitely keep reaching out with your stories. Because even if you don't want to appear as a guest, it is valuable information, and we want everyone to feel heard. So even if it's not necessarily this group, or if you're dealing with a similar one that's having things, we want to touch on that. We want to make sure we are addressing how this can manifest in multiple ways. Yep. So thanks to all of our loyal listeners, and to anyone new, and again to our guests and my co-hosts. And I hope everybody has a wonderful week, and we will see you all very soon.
And thank you, Persephone, for all your incredible hard work on this and bringing it all here. And if y'all think that it's been crazy, well, just you wait, because we're just getting started.
We have so many more episodes, everybody. Like, hey, oh no, the background is like
crazy.
So many more.
Don't kid yourself. So there's a reason we got a bonus episode.
It'll all make sense in the end.
Yeah.
Thank you, Persephone. Yeah.
It will.
Have a great time, together. Everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions or a story of your own about this organization, please feel free to email us. Our email will be linked in the description box. If you have experienced any trauma or abuse, please dial 988 for the crisis hotline. You are not alone. Please join us with our next episode, where we will be continuing to discuss what took place and how people are feeling about it today.